Everyone, Cal here, and welcome Wrestling Round Podcast. Well, it's been quite a bit. I know it's a little late, but I hope it's okay. Um, I'm so anyway. We have a show. We have a couples. This will be a two-part podcast episode. The today we're gonna be interviewing Matt Turner, which was actually featured on Dark Side of the Ring with Necro Butcher and Samoa Joe when they had their infamous match. But yeah, but yeah. So let's see. But yeah, we'll be right back. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. When we're right back, so guys, so we got a let's see. All right, so we got Mac Turner, who was featured in the Dark Side of the Ring. We got Mickie Knuckles later next hour. Who's a deathmatch wrestler who's been killing it on the indie scene. Well, I could say that everything, but I was introduced to her through some sort of, I guess you could say, shoot interview, like off the record interview with Ian Rotten. And then Murphy Madsen, who I've actually been wanting to get into conversation with her. Um, and I just kind of put it off a little bit, but you know what? And we're doing every day. So let's see. But so we're just gonna have this thing. So what? What? All right. All right. So we're gonna. Sorry about that. There's an interruption, and sometimes real life gets in the way of things. But you know what? 1 second. All right. Let's see. We just get the invite link here. Should be good. All right. Should be good now. All right. So he'll be joining us shortly. This is Matt Turner. But like I said, he's been featured on Dark Side of the Ring recently. He not people know. He done a little digging on his career. He actually, him being Ring of Honor trainee, which is it was kind of a thing that he did, and then he was featured in Dark Side of the Ring. But now he actually had a pro wrestling career of his own beyond Ring of Honor. Um he went to CZW, IWA Mid South, and well, Ring of Honor. That's the major names, but it looks like he hasn't wrestled in about a year or so. But you know what? Honestly, I think it should be okay. But you know what? Let's just showcase him in his own way because why not? It's just sure it may have been Necro Butcher versus Samoa Joe. It was the original subject of the Dark Side of the Ring, But you know what? Without further ado, let me introduce the person who was featured in Dark Side of the Ring when he was interviewed for the Necro Butcher versus Samoa Joe match, who I believe wrestled the Necro Butcher along with his tag team partner Anthony Franco, was describing in the documentary. Introducing Matt Turner. And I thank you for joining us, Matt.
Hello, Kyle. Thanks for having me. How are we doing on this warm day? At least warm where I'm at. I'm assuming you're, by the look of your fan, how fast it's going. I'm assuming it's about as hot over there as it is here.
Well, it's about like 90 degrees here, so here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So it's still kind of hot. So
Yeah, I'm over
it's
here in northeastern Pennsylvania, about like 80 miles outside of Philly. So, yeah, it's a little bit on the warm side, but it's August, the first week of August. That is to be expected. But thanks for having me on, brother. How's everything going?
Everything's going good. It's just sure, maybe not like sometimes like real like sorry for the quite a delay. I was real life sometimes gets in the way of things, and sometimes you forget. Sometimes you do that. It's that just happens in your life.
That's
But
that's life, buddy. That's life. If the worst
yeah,
thing that happens you today is that you missed one little thing today, it's a good day. It's a good day, brother. It's a
yeah,
good day. But no, man, thanks for reaching out. Thanks for making the
no,
time to chat some pro wrestling. I'm always down to chat about
yeah.
my favorite subject, professional wrestling.
Well, well, let's talk. Let's start with the Dark Side of the Ring that you when you were featured. Uh, so it was showcased of Necro Butcher versus Samoa Joe, that infamous match that I recently digested. And you were reached out by the Dark Side of the Ring to be interviewed with Anthony Franco, who you've wrestled alongside to face Necro Butcher in a match. How did it feel like when you got like the whole process of being interviewed by them, the Dark Side of the Ring, and just describing the match that took place between Butcher and Joe?
It was a long process, but it was awesome. The guys from Vice TV and the guys from Dark Side of the Ring are fantastic. I mean, unbelievable, above and beyond, professional, smart, knowledgeable. I had a couple phone calls and a couple Zoom meetings with some of the guys over there. And then they decided, hey, we're going to put you on camera. So I was like, okay. So they gave me, I told them where I was located. They said, this is where we do some of our stuff. And we're out that way. So I drove about an hour and change. It was a little area outside of Philly, and I got to hook up with my old tag partner, Anthony Franco, who I haven't really talked to in got to be about a dozen or so years, and finds out he only lives like 3 towns away from me. So, which was really cool. It was really cool. And it's what's great about the wrestling business is sometimes you just don't see somebody for a year, 2 years, 3 years. And it's not like there's any heat. It's just, as you said, Kyle, life happens. Like Anthony got married, has 2 kids. I had a kid. I moved up where I'm at now. I got married 14 years ago. He's out of the wrestling business. I still do the occasional independence, but where I'm making my bones in professional wrestling is behind the microphone, talking about mostly Joshi Pure Wrestling. So it just never, he's really not on social media, so I don't see him pop up. And then once the wheels went in motion, they asked me to track him down, and I couldn't. I went on social media, and it says like he hasn't like logged into any of his social media in years. So when we were interviewing for the show, we were talking beforehand, and I was like, "How did they track you down?" They wind up finding his wife's phone number, and they called his wife, left a message, and then he wind up getting a hold of me. I guess he went through his phone. He's like, I still have Matt Turner's phone number. I wonder if it's still the same. So he texts me, and I was like, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you. It was like, you needed to hire like Perry Mason to try to find Anthony Franco. So it was really great chatting with him. And we were filming for about 2 hours. It was probably about a good 2 hour process. Now we knew what we were getting into. We knew the documentary is obviously Joe versus Necro, and we were a small piece of that. So that the length of the show is an hour, and then with commercials, you're looking at 45 minutes tops. And they already told us like, hey, we're interviewing Bryce, we're interviewing Rob Naylor, we're interviewing Eddie Kingston, obviously Joe and Necro. So I was like, and Dave Prazak as well. I was like, we're going to be in this
Man
thing.
Pondo.
Yeah, of course, Pondo as well. I'm like, we're not going to be in this thing this long, but they got so much footage of us, so much. Again, we were probably filming there about 2 hours. And the one thing with me and Anthony Franco is we always had great chemistry. Like that was the obviously I knew Anthony Franco from the Ring of Honor dojo because we were part of the very first training class. But that was the first time me and him ever tagged. Was that tag match at Chikara Tag World Grand Prix against Necro and Pondo. We had instant chemistry, and Quack and Hero from they were booking for Chikara at the time. Obviously Mike Quackenbush owned it at the time, and he just kept bringing us back, and everybody around the horn just kept booking us as a tag team. We had instant chemistry, and then he was slowly starting to kind of get away. That's when he met his girlfriend, now wife, and he wanted to put his focus on that. And hey, all the power to him. He's got a beautiful wife, two beautiful kids. He's as happy as a clam. So it was just we had instant chemistry from day one of tagging. And then when we were filming, I was kind of wondering, how are we going to play off each other? And I was like, we should be okay. And literally from the moment we sat down, it was like we didn't miss a beat. We didn't miss a beat. Like we remembered a lot of things, just kind of going back and forth and shooting the breeze. So it was a real fun experience. But just to give you an idea, for anybody that's ever filmed anything before, how long the process takes, we filmed this back, I think it was the first or second week of September 2025. And this episode just aired a few weeks ago. So this was like a year, almost a year process. So because they have to get all the seasons lined up, ready to go. So yeah, they had our filming done. Yeah, sometime in the fall, like early fall. Again, I think it was the first or second week of September of last year. So I remember kind of reaching out to the Dark Side team at the beginning when I came back from Japan earlier this year, back in January. I said, hey, like, is this thing making and I've been involved in the professional wrestling business since I was a teenager, and I'm in my 40s now. So I know a lot of times things fall through. So I was like, is this thing still happening? They're like, yeah, we're waiting to get everything else going before we even announce the episode. So I've always been the type of person like I won't believe it until I see it, like because it might be like too good to be true. But the people with Darkseid, anytime I had any questions post production, they were Johnny on the spot. They always kept me updated on things that were going on. So again, it was really, really cool to film with them. And again, really great to work with them. And I actually just got a message from the one guy over there that they did a special screening in Toronto, like at a theater with Samoa Joe doing a Q&A. And the main guy that I've been talking to that hooked me up with all this, I believe his name is Dave, great guy. He sent me a picture of when me and Franco were on the screen. And he's like, you guys got a really good pop when they put you on the screen. I said, oh, look at that. I made my theater debut in a country I don't even live in. But obviously, I love Toronto. I was there years ago for WrestleMania 18. But I thought it was just really cool. And then the fact that like my episode is aired, it's done and over with. Like that, the fact that the guys from Darkside are still, reaching out to me and giving me some praise for the little bit I was on that show. So I can't say enough about the great people from Vice TV and Dark Side of the Ring.
Well, well, that's quite a lot of process to there must have been some sort of anticipation, like it's anticipation plus pressure because you trying to correct your words, trying to make sure like to make sure I don't say anything that I really regret. But well, it sounds like it actually went really well. But little to move on to the segue, you mentioned that you were part of the first class of the Ring of Honor dojo. So and you were trained. There was, correct me if I'm wrong. You were trained by current WWE Undisputed Champion CM Punk. Is that right?
100%. Yeah. CM Punk was our main trainer. We did get a little seasoning. I mean, one of the many, many great things about being a part of that first class, like Punk was your main trainer. And then whenever there was, because Punk was living in Philly at that time. So Punk was in Chicago. He moved to Philly to once Ring of Honor started kind of getting full swing. And then and Samoa Joe was in, I believe, California. I believe he was somewhere outside of LA. I could have that wrong. I'm pretty sure California. So whenever there was a show on the East Coast on the weekends, Joe would stay over at Punk's house, and then on Monday, Joe would come over and kind of help train us a little bit. So that was really cool. And then whenever Punk was was going to TNA, Japan, I remember the one time he was stuck in California for PWG, like he had flight issues. And then when he was getting dark matches, we would always get like special guest trainers. A lot of times we would get Allison Danger, who was living in the area at that time, which was cool because she would teach us a lot of ins and outs. And her brother is, for those who don't know, Steve Carino, former ECW world champion, former NWA champion, AWA champion, I believe is a current producer.
The WWE
Yeah,
Performance Center.
current producer. And I literally just talked to I talk to Allison all the time. We have her on my podcast all the time. She's a gem of a person. She's doing so much great work for professional wrestling, women's professional wrestling. So we do chat quite a bit. I was literally just chatting with her like right before I messaged you. So Allison Danger would come in and we would do a lot of stretching, a lot of yoga, and it was a lot of old school psychology that were lessons turned on from from her brother. So yeah, to answer your question, CM Punk was my main trainer. But when you're in that locker room back in the early 2000s of Ring of Honor, you had Brian Danielson there, you had Austin Aries there, you had the Briscoes there. They'd bring in legends like Bobby Heenan, Ricky Steamboat, Jim Cornette. So even if you just sat in that locker room and just didn't say anything, you would learn so much just watching them put the matches together. There was no ego. Nobody had any ego. Everybody was trying to help this Ring of Honor promotion, make it like the next cool thing, like the next ECW, the next little engine that could. And everybody was there to help out everybody. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I would leave I would cut the curtain from a dark match I'd be having, and Roderick Strong would be like, "Hey, can I give you some advice?" Or Austin Aries would be like, "Hey, can I give you some advice?" Like my first Ring of Honor match I had, I basically got destroyed in the squash, and it was on the dark. It was on a dark match on the Midnight Express reunion, October 2nd, 2024. And as soon as I cut the curtain, it was Jim Cornette, Bobby Eaton, Dennis Condrey, and Stanley were the first people to come up to me and say, "Hey, you did a great job selling. Do try this, and this." I'm like, the curtain behind me didn't barely even shut, and I got arguably the greatest tag team of all time and one of the greatest managers of all time, like giving me advice. Like it was just so cool because there was so many people so giving with their time, and again, a lot of that has to do with CM Punk's your trainer. He obviously back then and obviously does now. His name goes a long way, a lot of clout there. So a lot of people would take the time to talk to you, even without asking. If you asked, everybody would still give you advice, but there'd be some times like, "Hey, again, Roderick Strong was huge on it. Like, hey kid, can I give you some advice?" I'm like, "Yes, absolutely." When we were working in IWA, I know I'm going on a tangent here. We were working in IWA Mid South. The late great Chris Candino was there quite a bit, and he was the one. And because him and Punk were really close, you'd literally walk past the curtain. He would be sitting right there. He'd say, "Hey, I watched your match. Can I give you some advice?" And again, I grew up 2 hours away from the ECW arena in Philadelphia. Chris Candido was a mainstay there, one of the best tag teams ever with him and Lance Storm. Like, yes, Chris Candido, you absolutely can give me some advice. So, again, obviously, Punk's my main trainer, but I took so much, and I'm so blessed to learn from so many great wrestlers. And I got to wrestle the Chris Heroes and the Claudio Castagnolis and the Christopher Daniels. And it's just, you were able to learn so much from just being in that system that you can't help but not to learn and get better and smarter as a pro wrestler.
So when you started before you went to try it out and started training to the Ring of Honor dojo and became was training there. What was one of the idols that you idolized before that said, you know what, how would I pursue professional wrestling? That's one of my inspiration or the inspiration to get into pro wrestling.
I've always liked pro wrestling. I grew up in the 80s, and my earliest memory of pro wrestling was I watched WrestleMania 3 like a day or two after it aired. My grandparents had this giant house, and every Sunday they'd have a Sunday dinner. And I remember very vividly, it was the Sunday after WrestleMania 3, which was March 29th, 1987. And my uncle's friend had the VHS tape, and we were watching it. And my dad to this day is like, "You liked wrestling long before then." So I probably started watching wrestling like maybe 86, and I've always watched like again in the Northeast it was WWE, WWE, or WWF, WWF. Like you would hear things of like the NWA and WCW, but like not too many, like Ric Flair, Sting, like from the magazines back in the day. Like who Ric Flair was, who Sting was, like because of the face paint, Terry Funk, the Great Muta. But I've always watched. I was always like obsessed with it. Like every Sunday, every Saturday, watching wrestling. Um, we didn't have enough money to afford the pay-per-views, but I figured out a trick that if you set the pay-per-view channel to 99, that you would be able to hear it. Like if the picture would be all scrambled, but you would able to listen to the pay-per-views like a radio
Like if it was
broadcast.
on the radio, like if it was on the radio.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So then me and my brother got a paper out in 95, and we put our money together and we started getting the pay-per-views. So come to March 31st, 1996, my all-time favorite wrestling match, Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart. It's the first WrestleMania I'm watching live that I paid for with my own money. It's probably my two favorite wrestlers at that time, wrestling for 60 minutes. And I was a small kid growing up, and I'm by no means in my 6'4", 240 at this point. But here are two guys that are relatively small for WWF standards. Again, you got to remember, I grew up in the Hulk Hogan era. Hogan, Andre the Giant, Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy. These guys are larger than life. And I watched this match when I got over with. I was like, I want to do this. So I knew March 31st, 1996, that I wanted to get in to professional wrestling. But at that time, I was 14 years old. I was going to be 14 the next month. But I was like, how do I go about this? But my mind was pretty well set. March 31st, 1996, after that Iron Man match between Shawn and Bret, that this is a business I wanted to get into.
Well, that's definitely pretty insightful. So you guess that in the golden age of wrestling in the mid '80s, when the Hulkamania was still running wild, with the people's names like Randy Savage, Ricky Steamboat, Brutus Beefcake, like those types of names that were growing up in the business. That's that's definitely a pretty early age to kind of get into wrestling. Like in the '80s, like that was like 4 decades ago. Come to think of it, that's that's crazy. To come like the first ever WrestleMania was what 40 plus years ago now. It's
Yeah,
time flies, honestly.
March 31st, 1985. Yeah, Madison Square Garden was the very first WrestleMania. Yeah, because we just finished WrestleMania 42. So
So you mentioned that you got into dug your toe in watching Joshi wrestling, that which is the Japanese, which is women's wrestling, but in Japan. Um, I've have you like delved into stuff like the like have you heard of like the Gaia Girls documentary? Like back
yeah,
like
I've seen
some
it.
type
I
of
can't finish it. I just don't like.
uh
That's just that I understand training hard, and we trained hard at the Ring of Honor dojo, and I got to spend some time in the New Japan dojo and the old LA dojo before the new one, and they train you hard. It's one thing to get put on, a hold, a little shoot style hold. It's one thing to get hit hard, but in wrestling, you hit hard in safe places. Some of that documentary I thought was a little too much. I've never been able to finish it, and, like, once I got to the one part where that poor girl gets, like, her face busted open for I don't think any reason particular. I think somebody was saw that the cameras were there and trying to get themselves over. Once I saw that, I'm like, "Nope, this isn't for me." I was somebody that was bullied a time or two in high school, and then once people realized I know how to defend myself, that was the end of that. I don't like bullies, and that's how to me, that was I'm all about being trained properly, being trained hard, yet the right way, breaking your way into the business. Over here in Northeastern Pennsylvania, we have a lot of independent wrestling schools, and 99% of them are awful. They just want to take your money, have you on the show, get you to sell tickets, and it's almost an embarrassment to professional wrestling. But then there's that extreme from Gaia Girls that's like, this is a little bit too much. I'm all about do your 1,000 squats, do your a couple hundred push-ups. That's what Punk had us do. Run your miles, get your cardio, pay your dues. But that one, the Gaia Girls one, not for me, brother. Not for me. I don't agree with that. And again, and maybe I'm an island of my own, but I just don't agree with that style of training.
Yeah, I see. I respect that. I could see your viewpoint. It's definitely pretty, let's just say, controversial for that how they were trained. I know some like I think Japanese style they have more of a stiff style. There's this wrestler named Atsushi Onita, who is a Japanese wrestler. He was founded Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling, which was basically a deathmatch promotion. I believe you've heard of them, have you?
Of
As a
course. Yeah, they were very popular in the 90s. The 90s, especially like 96, 97, was a massive year for professional wrestling. So you have to remember you had the Sean and Brett thing. Austin was just
yeah.
coming up. You had the Hogan heel turn with the NWO. ECW was insanely hot. And then ECW is what got me into tape trading. You have to remember, for all you young kids out there, we didn't have the networks now. We didn't have the YouTube. Like if you wanted to watch this stuff from Japan, you had to know a guy to know a guy to get a tape, a copy of a copy of a copy of a tape and get it sent over from Japan. And sometimes it takes 6 weeks. But then FMW was huge. UWF was still doing really well. All Japan in the '90s, unbelievable. New Japan as well. But yeah, the that era, the FMW with Onita finding FMW, and then I mean, so much great talent around them. Terry Funk came in there quite a bit. Cactus Jack, McFoley, Hayabusa, one of my favorite. And really, Hayabusa was really my gateway into Japanese wrestling. Once I saw Hayabusa, yeah, on a bootlegged tape back in '96. I was like, "What is this?" And that's when I literally gobbled up as much Japanese
yeah,
wrestling as I could. Where I saw the Misawas, the Kawatas, the Kabashis,
yeah,
the Mudas, the so on and so forth. But
yeah,
yeah, Onita was, he did kind of was one of the pioneers of that style of deathmatch wrestling. The guy was a great worker. Like if you go back and watch the way he sells, the way he paces his matches, his timing, in his psychology. That's one thing. Like some of these deathmatch wrestlers, some people are like, "Oh, that's like garbage wrestling." Like, watch it. There's really good in depth story from some of the best ones, like a Nick Gage, like a Necro Butcher, like a Madman Ponda, like a Toby Klein.
yeah,
Like I'm not a deathmatch wrestler. Like that's just not my cup
yeah.
of tea. Like I like the
That that's
give me the technical wrestling, the hard hitting, the Japanese styles is the one
well,
that I gravitate towards the most. But if you really sit there and look at it, there's some great
yeah,
storytellers in Japanese
yeah,
deathmatch wrestling. And Onita was a phenomenal seller. Not only selling in the ring, but that guy sold a lot of tickets. Selling out
yeah.
Kawasaki Stadium. I mean, that guy sold a lot of tickets. So definitely well ahead of his time, and a guy that will definitely has his place in professional wrestling for sure.
Yeah, and Atsushi, and he's and on top of that, Atsushi Onita is still wrestling to this day, which is
It's crazy.
insane. Like, and he's still having that same style of deathmatch. If it's just extreme wrestling or death or hardcore type wrestling, I think I watched a match with him and Bully Ray. Like that, he's still, even though he's like what in the like early 60s, he's
I think
still
so.
wrestling.
Yeah.
Like Dory Funk, like he had a match with the late great Dory Funk Jr., now late great, when he in Japan. And I think there was a clip where it was Atsushi Onita and Dory Funk Jr. facing two other Japanese legends I forgot the name of.
I think
And
Nishimura was one of them. He was a guy in the All Japan in the late '80s, early '90s, and I think somebody else. But I mean, Dory Funk passed away. Yeah, we just lost him. Rest in peace, a legend
yeah,
at 84. So this was a few years ago. So he was 79, maybe
yeah,
80, and he was in the ring. And it's just like, hey, God bless. Obviously, he's not doing anything crazy, but
yeah, and
sometimes like that adrenaline rush, like
that was
you can't.
yeah,
I remember her Stone Cold Steve Austin. He said it perfectly. If that feeling, if you can bottle up that feeling that you get when when you're in the professional wrestling ring, and you're getting the people, like you're getting the people to pop, and you can bottle that, you'd be a billionaire overnight, because it's a feeling that nothing will give you. And sometimes you just can't replace that feeling. Sometimes it's like not about the money. It's like, man, I just need to go out there every now and again to get my adrenaline spike. You look at like rock stars, like look at the Rolling Stones, like they're still doing it. ACDC, they're still doing it. Metallica now, Metallica, they had their prime, in the '80s and '90s. And I get to see, I usually see Metallica. I'm a big rock guy. I see Metallica like once a year, and they're still crushing it. My all-time favorite is Ozzy Osbourne. He literally did his last concert as he was weeks away of dying. Like that just goes to show you, people, you can't put a price tag on that shot of adrenaline that any performers really get, whether it's in the rock and roll, the wrestling, or sports, or so on and so forth.
yeah, and it's just more of like a passion thing. It's like getting into like it's not just more like money based. It's just like it's like I wanna keep doing this. Like there's wrestlers today, like people say, oh, you need to retire, but there's people like I think Paul White, Chris Jericho, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, like those people, they still compete. They try to give it their all. Like Chris Jericho literally had a match with Tommaso Ciampa at one of the AEW's pay-per-views, and I could argue he still could actually deliver at a high level. Sure, he may be in his mid 50s, but he still can give has the passion to do it. I get what you're saying. That's
Yeah,
what
the
I'm
thing with
kind of getting
Jericho
at.
is he's so smart that he knows his limitations, but he knows where he can get the most out of the audience and the most out of the crowd. By no means is he like competing against Kenny Omega or Will Ospreay like he was a few years ago and still having great matches. But now he's at the point where he's elevating talent. Even in an Arena Mexico last Wednesday, he came out as his old CMLL gimmick, and he looks great. Again, he's in his 50s. He's in great shape. He's a great promo,
Yeah.
and he's still a fantastic worker. Was he as good as he was 10, 12 years ago? No, but he's still better than majority of the wrestlers that are out there because he knows what he's doing and he's smart. And he knows how to reinvent himself.
Well, out of the well, you touched on Joshi wrestling. Out of the wrestlers that you've over the years from years ago that you started when you started watching wrestling in the 80s to now when you're just digesting Joshi wrestling and modern day wrestling, which one would be your favorites like overall like currently?
My all-time favorite or my current favorite right now, or
Like
both?
current favorite, like
Current
we started like modern.
current favorite Sai Kamatani, Mayu. It's I always say I don't have a favorite wrestler, just because
Like
I just want the wrestler that's going to move the business forward. But I always say though, if I'm forced to give a favorite wrestler, my current favorite wrestler right now is Hazuki. I think Hazuki is phenomenal. She had this great run in the United States working on the independents the last I think like month and a half. I think she's back in Japan. I think either now or oh no, actually no, because she's actually wrestling Athena at the ECW Arena at the end of the month for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. But Hazuki would probably be my favorite. Sai Kamatani. I think Mayu Iwatani, and I will die on this hill. I think Mayu Iwatani is the greatest women's wrestler bell to bell. Now, does she get the clout of a Naomi Toyota? No, because Toyota was drawing 14, 15,000 people. Does she get the clout of a Charlotte Flair? No, because Charlotte Flair is great. Don't get me wrong. I love Charlotte Flair, but she's like mega push because she's got the $1 billion machine
yeah,
behind her. And kudos to her. That's great. But I think if bell to bell, there's no greater Joshi wrestler than Mayu Iwatani. Sai Kamatani, I think is her and Will Ospreay, the two best wrestlers pound for pound in the world today. Momo Watanabe. I'm a big fan of Miko Ano, who's the champion over there at Marigold. Huge fan of Miyu Yamashita, Miyu Watanabe, and Mizuki from Tokyo Joshi Pro. Soriano, massive fan of her. There's so many great Azumi. I say all the time, like if one wrestler to get you into Joshi, like if you like pro wrestling, like and if majority of the fans over here in the States, they're watching what they see on TV, WWE and AEW. Sometimes they don't realize there's a whole other world over there. I always say if you're looking to get into Joshi Pro Wrestling, and I've hooked so many people with this one wrestler, watch Azumi. If you've never seen her, just go on YouTube, type in AZM. She is unbelievable. What a phenomenal wrestler. Will Ospreay has gone on record saying that like Azumi's just unbelievable. Like I think one time, I think he was on Jericho's podcast like 2 years ago. He goes, like, I hope to be as good as Azumi someday. And I'm like, you might be the best wrestler in the world, Will Ospreay. But when you get the Will Ospreay stamp of approval, that's something. Starlight Kid as well. I just love watching like anything pro wrestling, like AW, WWE. That's when I get to watch TNA. I'm enjoying what I watch over there. But where most of my time is watching Joshi Pro Wrestling. But again, my favorites: Suzuki, Sai Kamatani, Mayu Otani, Sari, Takumi Roha. I mean, there's just so many phenomenal Joshi wrestlers. And look at Io Sky, former Io Shirai. She had her big start in Stardom, from 2012 to when she left in 2018. Michael Cole says all the time, "This is the best wrestler on our roster." And
yeah.
again, whether eh,
Aka even like, it
y-
was even was like I saw the match with was had a match when she where she booked it in Japan at events a men's wrestler I forgot his name he was a guy a stiff guy
Minoru
and they
Suzuki,
did a match Minoru Suzuki yes or Minoru Suzuki man that guy's a stiff like not stiff like snug work like make sure like see when I saw that, when I heard about that, it was like a pro wrestling iceberg video about the Jap of the into Joshi wrestling, and I heard about that, and my God, when I saw Asuka's face, I was like, oh, like I know there's wrestlers out there that like to kind of make it look real, even though they're supposed to protect their opponent, but
Asuka's one
just
of them.
more. Yeah, like was it Shibata is another one, another wrestler who I think had some sort of I think had a health scare at one point, and now he's wrestling in AEW.
Yeah,
I mean AEW.
yeah, he had a phenomenal match during Kazuchika Okada's phenomenal run as IWGP champion back in 2017. He had a fantastic match in the spring. Shibata wound up winning the New Japan Cup, got to challenge Okada. It's a phenomenal. I mean, the whole match is great, but there's this one spot where Shibata headbutts Okada, and you can hear the thud, and then you can just see the trickle of blood, busting himself open hard way. And then they said after the match, he was so dehydrated, and because of the brain damage, he passed out, and Japan wouldn't clear him for the longest
Yeah,
time. Japan wouldn't clear him. So then what he did is he became the head trainer of the New Japan Dojo over in Los Angeles. AEW started up, and Tony Khan had his doctors look at him, and
yeah,
he's like, "No, he's cleared." So that's why he's
yeah,
wrestling, because it's weird. He's
yeah,
cleared to wrestle in the States, but they won't clear him to wrestle over in Japan. So, but the fact that we get to watch him
yeah,
wrestle again,
and
he's another one on the
and
men's side. If you're asking my top 10 or 12 favorite men's wrestlers, he's definitely one of them. I'm a massive fan of Katsuyori Shibata.
yeah, yeah, and I think what like then you compare the two top wrestling companies. Well, if you want to include like TNA and Ring of Honor, that Ring of Honor is under AEW. AEW did their like made starting to branch out more, not just exclusively to WWE, well, or AEW. AEW is more lenient. Like you can go, they do independent dates. Like they partnered up with NJPW. They partnered up with TNA. Like they're doing collaborations all around. I know WWE is still kind of restrictive when they lease talent off to do other shows. Jerry Lawler, and I think they allowed like Shinsuke Nakamura to face the Great Muta on his retirement run. The and when the Keiji Muto, his real name, wrestled technically it was Masahiro Chono. it was I think it was a young up and coming wrestler that he faced, but then after the match Masahiro Chono literally made him quit. like like all those wrestlers, they both retired at the same time technically. It's
Yeah, well, the
that's
story
just
behind that was Muto was a genius because he did a great Muto retirement run. He did a moonsault retirement run where he was retiring the moonsault. Then he did a KG Muta retirement run. So he had great runs in All Japan, New Japan, and on Pro Wrestling Noah, where that's where he had his last match. So he had his retirement road was like a year and a half, and he just kept drawing money. And he was milking this for all it's worth. And then he had his last match in the Tokyo Dome for Pro Wrestling Noah. It was called Last Love. And that year, actually, Noah outdrew New Japan in the Tokyo Dome. So what had happened? He wound up wrestling Naito, Tetsuri Naito, who obviously was a mainstay at New Japan at the time. He won the IWGP Championship a couple of times. He won the the G1 Climax, I believe, twice. But now Naito is a part of the Noah roster, but back then he was signed to New Japan. So Naito beats Muto. KG Masahiro Chono, who, if you remember back in the 80s, they had something called the Three Musketeers, which was Muto, was Hashimoto, and obviously Hashimoto passed away, and Masahiro Chono. So Hashimoto never gets to have his last match because he winds up getting, I believe, stomach cancer, passes away. Chono never has his last match because his body's so beat up that it's just like he couldn't do it. Chono's on commentary for the match. Again, Muto had
yeah,
everybody's retirement match. I mean, his retirement run was like a
yeah.
year plus. It was amazing. And after the match, he calls Chono into the ring and he says, "You never had a retirement match. We're gonna have a retirement match." And he basically just lays down for Muta. Muta puts him in the STF, which, by the way, the STF was taught to Masahiro Chono by the great Luthez. So that's really cool, passing that down.
Yeah.
And they get to have a like a 1 minute retirement match with that. That was really cool to pay respect to Masahiro Chono the way that Muta did there.
Well, beyond Ring of Honor, you decided to continue to wrestle beyond when Necro Butcher and Samoa Joe had their infamous or like notorious match, whatever you prefer, because that was pretty bloody, honestly. My God, when I first saw it, it was like it was like more of like a death. It was like more like a death match, like more necro butchers type style. But what I was trying to ask, would you would still kind of you would still wrestle beyond that? Would you consider yourself retired from in ring competition, or would you just like, I'm on hiatus, like, yeah,
Kind of semi-retirement. I'm not one of those people to have kind of my big match. Like I was kind of a big fish in a small pond. Like I got to work for some really good independent promotions and I had some few tryouts for a couple of big Japanese companies. But once I got into the podcasting, I realized like that's a place where I can because wrestlers can only go so long. And my body was a
yeah,
little bit beat up. I was getting a little bit older. And I was lucky, knock on wood, I really didn't have too many injuries, like a couple concussions here and there. My back and my neck was a little beat up.
yeah,
But I remember it
yeah.
was like within a 6 month time, I really jammed up my knee. I really jammed up my ankle. And I was in a match where guy went to give me a senton. When he came down, he elbowed me right in the nose and exploded my eye and my nose.
Ooh,
I remember it was like within a 6 or 7 month period, like they just started catching up. Considering the style of wrestling, again, I was trained at the Ring of Honor dojo. So I always did that strong style. That was always my style of wrestling. And I was lucky enough that I never had anything seriously injured. So it's at that point with that, my body was getting a little bit beat up. I was still able to go at a decent rate. My wife didn't enjoy when I would come home and I'd be all beat up like that. And then the podcasting thing just really started catching fire for me. So I was like, let me put a little more focus onto the show than actual wrestling. Now, I still do take, I do get people asking me all the time for bookings, but I always say, here's my rate. If you can get me out of the house on a weekend, that's what you have to pay me. Now, I will do from time to time, I will do comic book conventions. I love wrestling at comic book conventions. They're so much fun. Or if there's a charity show that somebody needs help with, I will do. But if I never put the tights on again, I think I'm okay, but I still stay in shape. I still work out every day. So, I mean, if there's something that does come across my email or my desk that intrigues me, then yeah, I will definitely entertain it. But most of anything that I'm doing right now to push professional wrestling forward is what I'm doing behind the mic.
so let me give you one last question before I know on your merry way. You said you have an interview after this, so I'm just not gonna let you keep you up. So the last question I have for you is, um, what what kind of gave you this like decided to get what inspired you to kind of dig into Joshi wrestling?
When I was on the indies all the time, like all the time, you're in the locker room and you're hearing about great matches around the horn. And I'd always hear at this time, this is like 2016, 2017. Majority of my watching of wrestling was New Japan. New Japan, you had the Shibata, the Okada, the Omega. Osprey was just coming in. They had Jericho coming in from time to time. So you would hear people talking about stardom. So I would always hear, and I always kept my ear to the ground on social media about great matches. I would always hear
Hmm.
about three wrestlers: Mayu Utani, Io Shirai, now known as Io Sky, Kairi
Hmm.
Hojo, better known as Kairi Sane. And I always hear those three
Hmm.
names, and I was like, if I get into this, and I have a very addictive personality. I said, if I start watching this, I'm not going to watch a match from time to time. I am going to fall down the rabbit hole. Then I would start hearing about a Momo Watanabe, Arisa Shinki, a Julia. So at this point, I mentioned how I just told you a few minutes ago, I'm a massive fan of Shibata. Shibata was retired. And at that time, there was I was watching a lot of Shibata. Shibata was a wrestler at that time in 2021. I was studying the most. I was watching a New Japan show because at the time, New Japan and Stardom were both owned by Bushi Road. So I was watching New Japan show and they had a wrestler on there by the name of Shiri who wrestled just like Shibata. And I was like, okay. So I immediately went on YouTube, typed in Shiri, found out that Shiri was not only a phenomenal wrestler, but she has fought in the UFC, was former Queen of Pancrase, and just had this match with Utami Hayashishita back at the Cinderella Tournament finals in the summer of 2021 that broke Dave Meltzer's 5-star rating. So, okay. So I went and watched that and I was like, okay, Sherry was great. Utami's great. Let me start diving in this. So then I would go back and watch the EO matches and the Mayu matches. And obviously Julia was still there at the time. Now, obviously, Julia is on the WWE roster. And then I started listening into some podcasts because I'm on the road quite a bit for my regular job. And then the one podcast I was listening to was like, we need a co-host for this show. So I was like, well, I mean, I watch a lot of wrestling. And again, as I mentioned 45 minutes ago, I've been lucky enough to be top pro wrestling from some of the best of the best. So I figured, let me throw my hat into this ring. Emailed my now co-host and really good friend Rob Goodwin, and here we are, some 5 years later, my friend.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your way to come on here and talk with me about the dark side of the ring up until you just talking about Joshi wrestling. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, man.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great day, everyone.
You, you too. We'll be right back after this interview. We're back from intermission, even though it wasn't. There's no music this time. Uh, so that was Matt Turner. That was featured on Dark Side of the Ring. Kind of, that's pretty interesting conversation, as I do say so myself. Probably shortly we'll have the next guest, deathmatch wrestler Mickie Knuckles, who's been places like AWA Mid South, GCW, and a lot of other promotions, like I believe BJW, Big Japan Wrestling. Um, it's definitely Big Japan Pro Wrestling. Well, it's quite a lot of stuff to kind of digest. Um, so anyway, later on in the second part, we're gonna have Murphy Madsen, the '90s kid, that '90s kid. We'll see. Let's see. We'll just wait for the guests. Come on. While we talk about that, we formally do a moment of silence for Dory Funk Jr. Rest in peace, Dory Funk Jr. You will never be missed. As they say, gone but not forgotten. Dory Funk Jr. competed in the NWA. He, he was definitely memorable to many. And he became the NWA World Heavyweight Champion throughout his career. And now that he's gone, the Funk family is reunited up in heaven. I hope everything is better Everything is better and at peace for Mr. Dory Funk Jr. Anyway, what a man. He's was a mentor for every single time he stepped foot in the ring. He just showed out, like his brother Terry. But let's just say we are grateful to have had somebody like Terry, like him on this earth. Remember, and if this can apply to loved ones, if you lost somebody they near and dear, you have done a lot of differences, and all said and done, you don't know when will there be the last day that you're talking. Cherish your moments with them. As much as you dislike what they say, as much as you dislike their opinions, as much as you disagree on things that are kind of polar opposites, you will never have them. No, never. Will never actually have. You don't know when will be the last time. So you need to cherish them with your family, friends, and others. It's about probably every year we lose a wrestling legend. We lost Bray Wyatt in 23. Now we lost one of his family members, I believe, one of the Rotundas. Mike, not Mike Rotunda, still alive. But we keep losing all these legendary wrestlers, and we don't really talk about them. Dory Funk isn't. I didn't know him really personally or know him at all before getting into wrestling, but I did know him through his brother Terry. Him and Terry fought their heart out and to for the fans' entertainment. And he had this last match in 24 with him and Atsushi Onita, Osamu Nishimura. And there's no other way to say this. If it's either somebody who's famous or not famous at all. And we don't know how much time we have on this earth, honestly. But you know what? Let's cherish every moment with our loved ones and with friends and with family. We don't need to live in despair. There's a saying, be glad that it happened. Don't don't be sad because it's gone. be glad because it happened. I have gotten to know, I believe there was a local wrestler named Dirty Money. That's their actual name. That's their actual wrestling gimmick name. And they've gotten to do everything. And he called out a show. He was injured, and and during other circumstances, he died. Um, he was in the independent wrestling VCW, and now whatever in the memories of his fans and friends and family will live on, remembering him as if he's not famous. He doesn't if it doesn't matter if you're famous enough to get a Wikipedia page written about you, if it's famous enough that your family and friends know about you, or if it's just somebody that you just know and gotten to know. Nobody in particular. Nobody of any fame or fortune. We've all been there. We've all been through hardships. We've all been through different stages of life. And you know what? Be grateful for things that happen because you don't know when it will be your last. But Dory, rest in peace, man. Hope you and Terry are hope you, Terry, and your father and your Belle's father are reunited in the in the squared circle in the sky. Anyway, come to think of it, I should have kind of gloated my NWA world title replica to Salvanaro. um, it's not. I'm gonna surprise him with that. But mm, so so whenever you are feeling, I hope you guys enjoyed Matt Turner. We'll have Mickie Knuckles on in due time, whenever it may be. Hope everybody's doing well. So 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 Yeah. So see. So hope everybody's doing well. Hopefully everybody stays hydrated. It's pretty hot here, honestly. And if it's hot, you need to stay hydrated in whatever way you can. Mhm. Mhm. So let's talk about a little bit about Let's talk about a little bit about the current wrestling product. TKO. I honestly don't like the corporates there, respectfully, for a myriad of reasons. There's, I know there's a lot of different perspectives to take to underlook, but I'll tell you this. I don't think Triple H is mainly in control of creative. TKO is mainly in control. That may be a little bit of a hot take because honestly, he has his own role. Triple H has his own role in the company. But you need to keep in mind TKO's at the higher ups. And They say Ralph Emanuel or Ari Emanuel said basically that Pat McAfee was mainly the main event, like good enough to be in the main event of WrestleMania, with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton to be featured. So there's a lot of celebrity endorsements, like with the recent one with Ryan Garcia, which is definitely being a little bit of controversy. That's I feel like that's kind of an understatement, but let me look. Let me actually look at these controversies that he's involved in. So let me look. Let me, was Ryan? Let's see. Faced now several controversies. Let's see. Let me look. It says Ryan Garcia faced several controversies, including expulsion from the World Boxing Council for using racial slurs, 1 year suspension for testing positive for a banned performance enhancement drug, an arrest for felony vandalism, and an erratic social media behavior linked to substance struggles. Forget having demons, honestly, like with Jeff Hardy, but there definitely has to be some sort of accountability. Not saying he's guilty or it's out of a doubt, but let's just say that he's definitely something definitely reasonable to actually look up, to actually consider with the controversy that he's involved in. It says, let's look here. Major controversies up to this AI. We got, according to this, okay, it's Wikipedia, link in this, WBC expulsion. Expelled from the World Boxing Council in July 2024 for after using racial slurs against black people and disparaging Muslims during a social media live stream. The ban was lifted in late 2025. PED suspension. This is reported by ESPN. Handed 1 year suspension from the New York State Athletic Commission after testing positive for ostarine surrounding his April 2024 fight against Devin Haney, during turning his victory into a no contest. This one's reporting by ABC News. Arrested in June 2024 on a felony vandalism charge for causing roughly $1,500,000 in damage at a Beverly Hills hotel. Erratic behavior and substance abuse. Reported it's on Wikipedia and let's see. Then another one reversing ABC News. Erratic behavior and substance abuse. Exhibited unstable social media activity and leading his family and boxing officials to publicly address concerns over his mental health and struggles with substance abuse. Sounds like pretty personal demons. But so I guess that's definitely understandable that there was definitely some backlash to it, to his definitely some backlash to his controversies and why it didn't go well when he interrupted the segment between Joe Hendry and Danhausen. I think he's innocent until proven guilty. So anyway, let's just tell um you know Brock Lesnar may have retired from WWE despite him being mentioned in the Janelle Grant lawsuit indirectly, which you could say directly because of the description, but legally indirectly. Brock Lesnar had a good career in WWE, in pro wrestling. That I can tell you right now. And honestly, he should enjoy his retirement. But whatever is going to be happening in behind private arbitration between WWE and Janela Grant, we won't know. Only the plaintiff and the defendants and their lawyers and the judge would know, unless they choose to make it public. Or would that be breaking confidentiality? Who knows? But it is understandable why people don't like about Ryan Garcia. And it was kind of controversial to include him in that. He's kind of too high on celebrity endorsements, honestly. Like with Lil Yachty, they're including Lil Yachty into in Trick Williams's storylines. Which honestly, don't get me wrong, Lil Yachty, I think he actually was. He's sure he's not perfect. No one is. But Lil Yachty, to give his credit, Lil Yachty actually proved me wrong. But I can say this. He's definitely a good hype man. Definitely a good manager to have. Some could say again with Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll is like, I mean, he's kind of no disrespect on music, no, but his wrestling is kind of not superb, but not bad either. It's good for a start. With IShowSpeed, man, I can give him his flowers for his sell with Braun Breaker in the Royal Rumble last year, and then this recent match that he had at WrestleMania. That means he's one of the youngest people ever to be wrestling, minus Nicholas. But correct me if I'm wrong, it might be somebody younger than that. I think IShowSpeed is 20 or 21 years old. I believe he's 21. And I think he's around the same age as Javon Evans. I think he's younger than Javon Evans. But you know what? I can give him his flowers. And Logan Paul. When he joined WWE in 2022 or 23, when he signed the dotted line, I was really skeptical because of his past controversies with the Japanese in the forest of vehicle forest in Japan, the public nuisance he kind of caused, in his neighborhood. I may be thinking of his brother Jake, but Logan, he likes to talk quite a lot, and in his little alleged scandals with those companies, like with encouraging gambling, like to his kid audience or teenage audience. That I cannot. That I could see. There's definitely controversy there, but I'm gonna definitely just say as it is. His wrestling, man, that kind of. I'm not gonna say it makes up for it, but that's definitely salvageable. And kind of looking back at his character, as how he acted, he definitely turned that into his wrestling persona. And Logan Paul, I give him his flowers. You know, Sure, I even drink. Prime is not that bad either. Um, I can remember when Randy Orton literally RKO'd fucking KSI, and after he drank the Prime, or he RKO'd KSI, and then he drank the Prime, and then he poured the Prime on KSI, which that's honestly kind of a full circle moment because KSI is somewhat of a wrestling fan as far as I'm concerned. Um, which honestly I feel like that deep down I think he was great to kind of be in the ring with him for that segment. And honestly, celebrities in wrestling, I'm not opposed to it. Like with Bad Bunny. Say all you want about Bad Bunny, about the controversial, let's just say, in my opinion, really nonsensical divide between the halftime shows with the Supreme with the Super Bowl halftime show and the Turning Point USA's halftime show, All American halftime show. On Turning Point's part, that's honestly nonsensical to me. You shouldn't just make your own halftime show, which honestly I feel like, I mean, legally they can do that, but that's just out of petty. Say all you want. I remember watching his performance at the halftime show, and he was great, honestly. And when he wrestled at WrestleMania 37 in the tag match, he wowed me. And when he wrestled in Puerto Rico in Backlash, man, the crowd went crazy for him. Politics aside, or any controversies aside, I'll give him his flowers. I think him and fucking Logan Paul, sorry my French, him and Logan Paul could definitely duke it out if it came down to it in the ring. And you know what? Like I said with Logan, I think that's a good heel. It's definitely a good heel. His character outside of the ring, his bravado prior to signing with WWE, and his braggadocio. I'm trying to let me see if I'm making sure I braggadocious demeanor that he has definitely fits into a heel character. That I can say right now. But I'll let you know about this. As long as they can work hard enough as much as the wrestlers do, they have the right to be they probably should earn the right to be respected in the wrestling business. I think Bad Bunny has earned it. Logan Paul has earned it. Jelly Roll in some aspects, he has earned it. Though I think he could actually work on his wrestling skills a little bit more. It's definitely his promo work is good. Um, Shy Show Speed, definitely, definitely like how he's streaming, streams for a living, and his demeanor, definitely a good character. With him and Danhausen, it's like, check. Can I have your? Let me have your. Let me have your stream. Let me have your stream account. Let me have your Twitch account. Get your login. How many human monies? How many human money? I could give you human monies to get it. I'll give you something for your account. Or you're cursed. Um, Danhausen, I think he's definitely a good character. Um, he's kind of has aspects of Kevin Thorne. And I mean, they say I could say okay, Undertaker, but Undertaker, it's not like mythic. It's more like a comedic character. Um, there's definitely quite some aspects of a like a vampire character, but the person behind it, I think, definitely deserves all the flowers in the world. Um, to it's nothing. It's nothing about his fault. It's not a fault of his own because like wait, what was I just saying? It was not really a fault of his own. Forgot what I was saying. Honestly, I think that's Danhausen. Um, I don't think that's a fault of his own because let me tell you, like there's definitely some backlash to how he's being used. But you know what? I think that's not a fault of his own. I think it's more of like a booking decision. Like going against Dominic Mysterio. You know, Dominic Mysterio, I can give him credit. When he debuted in 2020, was it 21 or 22 or 20? In the Thunderdome era, he didn't disappoint. One of the most booed people in WWE, in modern WWE. I feel bad for Dominic. In my personal opinion. There's some rumblings that he's dissatisfied with his creative direction, which honestly is understandable, but honestly, I don't think it's like a huge roster. Definitely a huge roster. We don't know if everybody's going to be featured, like with Matt Cardona. I don't think Matt Cardona is concerned about winning the actual world title, as much as he would like to. As long as he kind of likes to hang with the younger guys and kind of elevate them more. It's not like a fuck up for WWE. It's like they haven't used they've misused these wrestlers. They've misused Chad Gable. They've misused like several other wrestlers. They misused, you know, Kyrie Sane. Like all those those that are overly talented. Like they recently brought Baron Corbin back. I like Baron Corbin. Um he's it's a shame that they didn't bring his is the I am the darkness that type of song back, but they brought him back a new song. Rusev, they could argue that Rusev's not getting pushed really. not getting any TV time. There's a lot of wrestlers there. Like Big Cass just returned. Some people speculated that Enzo was going to return with them. Nope, not yet. We don't know. But I'll tell you this. All these wrestlers that are not getting TV time, um, they can't come up with every single idea for every wrestler. It's impossible. Unless if you actually put like a battle royal in every single or any type of stipulation they kind of show on television, which I feel like that would definitely grow stale if that were the case. Let's see. Dun, dun. Um, so anyway, um, so, 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 back to the program. The honestly, let me talk about something about that I was talking that CM Punk becoming the WWE Undisputed Champion. I wasn't completely a fan of it, of the decision itself, of the booking decision itself. But you know what? I understand the business wise, like business aspect to it. I kind of molded into like, okay, I guess that's where we're going with this. But I think honestly think that I think CM Punk, did he deserve to be the world titles to become the undisputed WWE champion? That I do not know. It's more of a probably a booking decision. Um, I don't know, but I think it's more of a refreshing type. It's kind of like a flashback to 2011 or 2012 when he won the title. When he had that long day reign. I don't think he's gonna have a long ass reign, but I think he's probably gonna elevate a lot of superstars. I think it was more of a pivot with the heel turn. I thought Cody Rhodes was gonna have a heel turn. Some people said CM Punk was gonna have a heel turn as well, but you're either or. I don't think CM Punk was gonna turn heel, but the reason if they turn him heel, he'll still get cheered. Like how Edge was cheered when he was still when he was in the Judgment Day, when he was acting as a babyface, when he was acting as a heel, when he formed the Judgment Day. I honestly don't think that I don't think people say that WWE creative or the backstage it's definitely frustrating. There's a lot of stuff to be said about WWE as a whole. If it's either the scandals that it was conjured up in, that was involved in, like the steroid scandal, the ring boy scandal, the the legal press, the negative press that WWE got with Chris Benoit's double murder suicide. Honestly, Chris Benoit, he's a good wrestler, but that does not mean he's his wrestling career is definitely he was definitely tarnished. Sure. And the murder suicide was definitely tragic. I don't think WWE will get its comeuppance, well, particularly Vince McMahon, as much as I would like it to. He's a billionaire, just like Trump is, just like Warren Buffett, just like Elon Musk. I think it's more of like an like a like a like a little life hack. When if you're rich and if you own the best lawyers, if you can afford the best lawyers, you can basically buy yourself out of a paper bag. Vince McMahon, I think he'll definitely get his comeuppance at some point. But if they whatever the ruling is in arbitration, in private arbitration behind closed doors, I think he would definitely get his consequences. Definitely is. There's a lot of stuff to be said about Vince McMahon and his character. His actual character. Not the one he appears on stream. He's on screen. Screen. I don't think people say arguing that they want Vince McMahon back because he's better than Triple H, like how he's being. They're starting to be like Vince McMahon. And people are saying, there's a report that Vince McMahon could buy TNA. Why would he buy TNA if he was combating with them when he was about war with them in the 2010s? Like buying your competition, sure, that could be the mentality of WWE when the WWE went with WCW and ECW. But I honestly don't think that there was a lot of stuff that was to be said. If AEW bought WWE, that would be a whole different ballgame. It would have been something else. Do I think Vince McMahon will come back? Honestly, no. Honestly, no. See, Triple H, he's definitely being criticized for his role in a lot of wrestlers' pushes and releases, and the booking decisions and the storylines. But you need to keep in mind, like I said earlier, TKO is at the upper higher ups. They're a business at the end of the day. They want to make more. They want to make money than they actually. Sometimes than when they actually care more about their customers. If the business cares more about money than cares more about customers, their feedback, then they'll eventually go out a bit. They'll eventually have a financial slump. Like Roblox stock got down. Went down because of all the bad publicity surrounding like all the predators being on Roblox. And that is fair. But monitoring like age verification. I don't think that's an I don't we need to that is not their control. That ruts under Roblox is an issue. That's their independent thing. We don't need the internet to parent our children, in my opinion. I grew up with the internet. I grew up with like VCRs. I grew up with the VHS tapes. I used to watch Thomas and Friends and Blue's Clues on there on the VHS. I think that the businesses like with the streaming services like raising their prices every year, like with Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix. Again, they're in the business at the end of the day, but there's definitely comes to a time that definitely too much. And at their point, like with WWE and TKO, like they raised the prices of the tickets to get more money, to squeeze every single penny out of the wrestling fan to attend a simple either Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, maybe main event, or even a pay-per-view. Why would that be? That's ethically unjustifiable. Raising the prices. That's like raising your taxes on. It's like raising taxes without any rhyme or reason whatsoever, or raising your rent every month, which or every year, which they do sometimes. And I kind of thought something was something. I've been outside. Um. Okay. What was I? Oh, I don't think Triple H is mainly to blame, like completely to blame, because you got to think TKO. I feel like is pushing stuff down our throats. The businesses have to be held accountable, not just the people representing me. It just makes sense from a logical standpoint. Like with Roblox, like I just mentioned. Like with there's a recent backlash with Sony, like discontinuing the games, discontinuing physical copies, which I honestly think I understand the business aspect and the ever changing ecosystem of the internet and the technology and AI, but no, I don't think so. I don't believe I dislike that decision. I dislike that decision very much. For 2028, they're gonna stop making physical copies. It's more of a collector's mentality, like you're cherishing like owning your games. Like at old games hold on a second. Like like with this with this Madden game, for example. This for the Wii. This this game you can legally own. You have your own. You can own the Wii. You can own the game itself. But being digitally, that's just a little bit of leniency. Like they say, oh, you don't actually legally own your games. It's still in the company's hands. That I understand. I think it deserves a mentality, different type of mentorship, different type of it's more of a collector's thing. Like being it's not just being sentimental, it's just being being part of history, I guess you could say. Yeah. But that's kind of circling back to TKO. Okay, kind of like implementing AI into wrestling into the WWE product and into the businesses. That is definitely panned by the majority of people. It lacks creativity. It lacks originality. It's supposed to help us, not replace us. Like involved in WWE storylines or involved in creative, like with the graphic with Dominic Mysterio holding the holding the AEW championship. Yeah, that's I understand from a business perspective, but honestly, you need to take customers' feedback, not to the bit, not to the core, not to a T, all the way to a T, but you need to consider that. If you don't listen to your customers, then you're gonna have a financial slump that you're gonna get your hard to you're gonna try and get out of. It's like you're gonna dig yourself into an abyss that you're gonna hard to struggle to get out of. WWE is kind of trying is the best one of the best wrestling companies in the world, no doubt about that. They made a lot of money financially, but I don't think I don't think WWE is there to satisfy the fans. It's more to satisfy the people that benefit from it. Like um like TKO has UFC and WWE. And I don't think TKO I don't think there's a lot of things I can say about it, what hasn't been said. So WWE and UFC. I think as a business, TKO I feel like knows what they're doing. But from, a fan's perspective and a customer perspective, it's definitely a slap in the face. I can see that. What up, iShow Finance? I just saw your stream. I just saw this now of 30 minutes ago. W streamer, kind of mediocre. Anyway, but yeah, WWE. I don't think they're going to change in a major way. They're definitely going to readjust because when they're in a financial slump, they're like, let's just readjust. Let's acquiesce. to accommodate the fans just because so we can get get the fuck out of this slump, this dip in the dip financially, so we can salvage what we salvaged it, so we can salvage the damage. That's like the hurricane, like the hurricane may have came through my town, came through the entire state, but let's try and salvage what we have. Let's try and salvage trying to work with local, local authorities and stuff and state authorities to 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 clean the rubble, to try and fix what is not, what isn't, what can be fixed. I may be a hypocrite because I consume WWE television, but you know what? You have the right to criticize your business. You have a right to criticize the product that you're seeing and report it to the higher ups, the parent company, or the actual company itself. WWE is a business, but it's a business under a business with a parent company, like with Sony, like with Microsoft. Everything involves around business. I may not be from the business world, but I do understand business wise in the general scope of it. I think WWE at the end of the day is not going to bestly acquiesce to the fans, but it's kind of more like a kind of sneaky tactics to appear that they're listening to the fans, but they're not actually going to listen completely. You know, it it doesn't make sense. We may have to reschedule for the other guest if they're not coming on. It's probably says about two o'clock. It's at 2 o'clock. It's like 3 o'clock. Um, probably something. They'll probably get back to me at some point, but probably family to reschedule most likely. But we might postpone with Mickie Knuckles if they don't get if I don't get anything back. But it's okay. It might be something, personal and stuff. I completely understand. Uh Probably conflicting schedules. Anyway, but we'll have let me double check about the other one. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's see here. But back when I was saying, WWE is a business at the end of the day. It's not going to be mainly accommodating to everybody. There is no way that it can be done. That can be accommodating for everyone. Maybe if they kind of, the majority of the fan base is calling out on their bullshit, like actually kind of try and have a have some sort of movement, like the Yes movement. Well, Yes movement was probably, they weren't high on Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, but they had to acquiesce because they were getting too much backlash because there was PR reasons. I was like, we need to lean into it. I don't know if it was the same way with Kofi Kingston, with the Kofi Mania and everything. But come to think of it, I think it was probably the same way. It was definitely probably the same way. Had to have. I'm not saying like more like a, but they ended up doing the stuff in the end with Kofi winning the title. But the fact that they gave it up to Brock Lesnar on the first episode of SmackDown on Fox, sure, it made business sense, but in reality, it was panned. Could have had a longer reign with it. Probably could have lost it at WrestleMania or maybe at the Royal Rumble next year. That year's Royal Rumble, that coming. But Brock Lesnar, in the way that it was back in like within 10 seconds, that does not make sense at all. There is no there is no other reason. There is no other reason why that they should they bury him like that. Like, what was the purpose of that? To get more profit on the first episode of Fox? Sure, it would have been could have been a longer match. But 6 seconds? When Goldberg faced Brock Lesnar in his return match, he would have gone and probably longer. It was long enough to remember it, to have it memorized. The championship match, the match that it was at Survivor Series in 2016. I do not think that WWE at the time realized, like, fully grasped the idea of the fans' perspective. But here's the thing. I understand, like, the fans' perspective completely would be definitely a little bit of chaos, a little bit chaotic. Like, it would go back and forth a bit. But I think at some point, Oh, let's just say I guess. So I guess I guess I guess we're gonna have to change the graphic. Or maybe not. We're gonna reschedule to next Friday with Mickie Knuckles. Um so Anyway. Yes. Change the schedule around a little bit. But anyway. Anyway. Um so on the board right here, I'm kind of scheduled for guests to kind of come on around at those same times. Um anyway, um we're gonna be back on the air around probably 8 p.m. I apologize that my buddy Marshall was not. I know on the first one I tried to trying to ask him to get on, but he was kind of busy at the moment, so that was kind of out of my control. So anyway, so that's all. It's kind of I think gonna wrap up in a couple minutes at 3:30. So, but yeah, we're gonna be back on around 8 or 7:30, 8 p.m. to have Murphy Madsen will. So a little change of plans, making. I was about to say making changes. Mickie Knuckles is reschedule. We kind of have a little rescheduling. It is so next Friday, so it's kind of a little bit of a mix up. It's had me down for next Friday. Um, we'll scheduled for on another guest on that same time, so it's nothing I could handle. But you know what? But it's just a little change of pace. I know it was a little spontaneous kind of starting at this time, but you know what? It happens. That's life. But we'll be back with Murphy Madsen on the show. As far as we know, I hope you guys so much for thank you guys so much for watching this stream, this podcast episode. Um, I know it was mainly interviews, but you know what? It's kind of a little bit of a little talking point. It's kind of don't. It's kind of not used to getting like doing it with my partner. I've done it for quite a few times, but honestly, uh, well, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys later on tonight around 7:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace out, guys.